Assaults involving deadly weapons or firearms. As criminal defense attorneys, we deal with these kinds of cases frequently, and we want to talk a little bit about what that means. What does it mean to have a deadly weapon enhancement? What does it mean to have a firearm enhancement?
One thing you've got to know about these enhancements is you can have a piddly assault 4 charge that you would go no time on. You've got a clean record, no issues whatsoever. But if there is a deadly weapon involved or a firearm involved, all of a sudden it gets really ugly. On a gross misdemeanor, you may or may not be able to talk your way out of it. But typically, if a gun's involved, at a minimum, you're talking an assault 3, and that's going to buy you at least 18 months just on the enhancement for the firearm.
Well, we need to clarify that. What he just said is that by having a firearm or a deadly weapon involved in a crime, it automatically will elevate to a certain level felony.
Right.
And not only are you exposed to the potential jail or prison time associated with that underlying felony, but the firearm or the weapon itself carries a statutory period of time. You can't get good time on, you can't get out of, you can't get a third off. There's no gamesmanship around that at all from criminal defense attorneys. You're going to eat it.
Right, and the problem you have here is, say they get into your car and they find 3 or 4 guns, you get an enhancement for each gun that they find. So all of a sudden you go from an assault 4 case where nobody's going to go to jail on this, or at least hopefully you're not going to go to jail. But if you've got 3 guns, 3 times 18 is what, 48? No, it's 54.
3 times 18.
3 times 18 on a Class C, that's 54.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're biting off on a little over 4 years in jail simply because you're riding around in a car with guns. And that is not a good deal.
Yeah.
What you need to make sure is you get away from guns. Deadly weapons are not quite as bad, but they'll still get you at least 6 months per deadly weapon. You get into the car, you find a brick, a broken bottle, a beer mug, whatever it may be, they will compound. There's no good time, and they run mandatory, consecutive, no good time. So if you want to know what's happening here, you need to check out the RCW's, the Revised Code of Washington, on this, because this is where people will do far more jail time than on their underlying offenses. Washington has gotten really harsh on this because the way you put people away is not the underlying offenses, it's because they like to act in a manner that society doesn't want to allow them to do.
And the deadly weapons enhancements are a quick way to threaten time. And so, for example, let's talk about a deadly weapon. A deadly weapon is not, it's not just nunchucks, it's any object depending on how you use it. So you made me laugh once. You said, well, a cell phone's a deadly weapon, because if you hit somebody right with it and you're carrying it in your hand, you just struck somebody with an object and you did substantial injury to them. Let's say you broke the bone underneath their eye.
Yep.
You've just used that cell phone and you've exposed yourself to a deadly weapon enhancement. On the felonies go something like this. Class C is the bottom, Class B is a little hotter, Class A is
You're doing a lot of time.
You're doing a lot of time. The deadly weapon enhancement on a Class C felony is 6 months at present. At Class B, 1 year at present. Class A, 2 years at present. And the numbers get a lot more if you've ever used one previously. The RCW, by the way, we mentioned, that's 9A.04.110. You should go look at it if you're looking at these kinds of cases. You should be a little familiar with that. Same thing with firearms, yeah?
Yeah, firearm is a weapon or device from which a projectile or projectiles may be fired by an explosive such as gunpowder. The RCW on that is 9.41.010. The problem you've got on this is if it's involved in a crime, and this is where it's really important, it doesn't matter whether you even knew one was going to be involved. There have been cases that are settled through the Supreme Court in which the guy driving the getaway car, he's hanging outside, he's listening to some tunes, not knowing what the hell his buddies are doing. They come running out, they say, hit the gas, he takes off. Well, what happens is the story hits the news, all of a sudden a teller got shot, a couple guns were brandished. It doesn't matter. That dude who's driving the getaway car is going to do the same amount of time on the firearm enhancements as his buddies are.
Yeah.
Now, they may not be able to charge him with the bank robbery or the burglary or whatever it may be, but he's going to do that 18 months on a Class C, 3 years on a Class B, 5 years on a Class A, because that's what the law dictates.
So it's really important to realize accomplice liability is what the law calls that, right?
Right.
You know, if you're involved or around dudes carrying guns or women carrying guns or that are you're using deadly weapons, let alone a knife, let alone are assaulting people with things in their hands,
choose better friends.
Get away.
Get away, because all you're going to end up doing is doing a lot of jail time. If you're in a situation where you've got a firearm enhancement being charged or a deadly weapon enhancement being charged, call us, come in, we can talk to you, we can run you through these things and try and help you out.
Yeah, and remember that the prosecutor has an enormous amount of power now to threaten you with serious prison time if you have these kinds of accusations. So the game got very serious. You better talk to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
Thank you.